For as long as I can remember, I've been a planner. I had this idea in my head that if I just worked hard enough, if I stayed organized and followed a set path, things would always go according to plan. I thought that was the key to happiness, controlling every aspect of my life, making sure nothing was left to chance. But then came the year that completely shattered that belief. The year I learned that life doesn't follow your plans. It doesn't respect your need for control. And sometimes the best thing you can do is let go. I was 23, freshly graduated from college, and had just landed my first job. It seemed like everything was finally falling into place. I had a plan. I had an apartment, a job, a clear direction. I was supposed to be on top of the world, right? But in reality, I felt more overwhelmed than I ever had before. I think a lot of us in our 20s feel the pressure to have it all figured out. We graduate, get that first job, and suddenly everyone expects us to be adulting perfectly. People start asking, "What's next? Are you dating anyone yet? When are you getting your next promotion?" The questions kept coming, and I realized that I was expected to follow a set timeline, one that didn't always align with what I truly wanted. I didn't want to just follow the conventional path. I wanted more freedom, more time to explore, more time to figure out who I actually was. But that wasn't the story everyone else was telling. They all seemed to have their act together. I, on the other hand, felt like I was barely keeping my head above water. I remember the moment it hit me the hardest, the day I lost a job opportunity that I thought I was guaranteed. I had been working hard, building my resume, networking, and doing everything I could to prepare. But when I got the email saying that they had selected someone else, I felt like my world came crashing down. For the first time, I realized that no matter how much I planned, no matter how much effort I put in, I couldn't control everything. I had put all my hopes into this one job, thinking it was my dream role, and when I didn't get it, I felt like I had failed. It made me question my abilities and my future. I started to spiral. The pressure of having everything in my life figured out and on track seemed too much to bear. I felt stuck in a cycle of self-doubt. The more I held on to the idea of control, the more I felt like I was losing everything. It was a rainy afternoon when it happened. I was sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by piles of paperwork, job applications, and rejection emails. I had been working tirelessly to find the right job, to make things work. I had been chasing this perfect life, one that matched the expectations of everyone around me. But in that moment, something clicked. I realized that I was so focused on trying to make everything happen that I wasn't even enjoying the process. I wasn't appreciating the small moments. I wasn't giving myself the space to breathe. I remember sitting there, looking out the window as the rain fell, and just letting go, in a way that I had never done before. I let go of the expectations. I let go of the pressure. I let go of the idea that everything had to be perfect and that I had to control every detail of my life. I thought, what if I didn't have to have it all figured out? What if it was okay to not know the answers right now? What if, for once, I could trust life to unfold the way it's meant to, without my constant interference? And in that moment, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I realized that life was never about perfection or control. It was about learning, growing, and being open to the unexpected. Letting go wasn't easy. It didn't happen all at once, and it wasn't something I could simply decide and then move on. It took time, months in fact, to fully embrace the idea that I didn't need to control everything. I had to learn to trust myself, trust the process, and trust that things would fall into place when the time was right. At first, I let go of the pressure to find the perfect job. I stopped obsessing over every opportunity that came my way, And instead, I focused on learning as much as I could in my current role. I realized that even though it wasn't exactly what I thought I wanted, there were valuable lessons to be learned in the here and now. I didn't have to rush into the next thing. I could appreciate where I was at that moment. The more I let go, the more I started to embrace the freedom that came with it. I stopped comparing myself to everyone around me. I stopped worrying about what others thought of my choices. I started focusing on what made me happy, what fueled my passions, and what made me feel alive. Letting go also meant letting go of toxic relationships. There were friends, family members, and even romantic partners who, for various reasons, no longer aligned with who I was becoming. Letting go of them wasn't easy, but it was necessary. It wasn't about cutting people out of my life out of anger. It was about making space for the people who truly supported and understood me. It was about learning to say no to things that drained me and yes to things that uplifted me. It was about redefining what success meant for me rather than living according to someone else's definition. As I began to embrace the idea of letting go, I also started to embrace uncertainty. I stopped trying to predict what would happen next and started being open to the possibilities that life could offer. It was terrifying at first. The unknown is always a little intimidating, especially when you've spent so much of your life trying to control your future. But I began to see the beauty in not knowing what was next. I realized that not having all the answers was actually freeing. It allowed me to be more present, to enjoy the journey, and to find joy in the little things. I wasn't constantly chasing something or waiting for the next step. I was living in the moment, and that made all the difference. One of the most important things I learned that year was how to rediscover myself. For so long, I had been focused on what I was supposed to be doing, how I was supposed to be living, and what was expected of me. But when I let go of all of that, I found myself again. I remembered what it was like to just be me, without the weight of expectations or plans. I took up new hobbies that I had always been curious about, but never had time for. I started reading books for fun instead of always working on my career or academic growth. I made time for my friends and family, cherishing the moments we had together instead of worrying about what was next. Letting go allowed me to be more present in my own life. I learned that it was okay to take a step back, to breathe, and to just be. And in that space of just being, I found peace. By the end of that year, I had learned that letting go didn't mean giving up. It didn't mean being passive or inactive. It meant accepting that life would take its course, that things wouldn't always go according to plan, and that I didn't have to have it all figured out. The freedom I found in letting go was something I had never experienced before. I had spent so much time trying to control everything, but when I finally let go of the need to do so, I felt lighter, freer, and more at peace. I learned that the key to true happiness isn't control. It's acceptance. It's trusting that life will unfold the way it's meant to, and having the courage to go with the flow, even when it's uncertain. Letting go was the best thing I ever did. It was the year I learned that sometimes the best way to move forward is to release the tight grip on the past and the future and just allow yourself to be. Now, at 24, I look back on that year with gratitude. It wasn't an easy year, but it was a necessary one. I learned to let go of the pressure I put on myself, the unrealistic expectations, and the fear of failure. I learned that it's okay to not have everything figured out, and that the path you're meant to take often comes when you stop forcing it. Letting go wasn't about giving up. It was about letting life surprise me, and that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.